Okay, so Gina Haspel's confirmation still hangs in limbo after yesterday's politically charged Senate confirmation hearing. She was able to secure a key yes from West Virginia Democratic Senator Joe Manchin, but the odds are she will get confirmed. But still today, her confirmation remains uncertain. Arizona Senator John McCain is urging his colleagues not to confirm Haspel as the CIA director. McCain tweeted that he thinks Haspel is a patriot who loves the country, but her role in overseeing the torture is disqualifying. Lawmakers grilled Haspel during her confirmation hearing yesterday over her involvement in a secret CIA prison where suspected terrorists were tortured. And that's where I want to bring in our next guest. His name is John Yoo. He's a law professor at UC Berkeley, and he wrote those memos that helped authorize the enhanced interrogation techniques. John, thank you for being here with us today.
My pleasure.
I wanted to get your reaction to John McCain's tweet saying that he thinks Haspel's role in all of this is, quote, disqualifying.
Well, Senator McCain is entitled to his own opinion. It's a very hard subject. You would be surprised that everyone in the country agree unanimously on it.
Of course.
However, I also don't think it's disqualifying. Certainly, Senator McCain is entitled to vote against Ms. Haspel, but that's why we have a confirmation process in the Senate. And I would say that back after, if you look at the days after 9/11, a lot of people in the country wanted the government to be as aggressive as possible. The CIA acted according to the orders of President Bush, elected by the American people, reelected in 2004 after this information became public. And the CIA briefed the leaders of the congressional, both the majority and minority parties, including Nancy Pelosi, and they all did not object to it either. So again, Senator McCain can have his view, but I think if you look at the way our democratic process has worked, the people we elected to office and our leadership, they all approved it.
Yeah, and you're right about John McCain. I have a lot of respect for John McCain. I appreciate the fact that he was actually tortured for real in Vietnam.
Right.
So you give him a little bit of grace on this issue, but at the same time, he did vote for John Brennan, which makes it seem a little bit, I don't know, I'll leave that blank there. But also, one of McCain's colleagues across the aisle, Kamala Harris, attacked Haspel repeatedly during the hearing yesterday. Take a listen.
Do you believe in hindsight that those techniques were immoral?
Senator, what I believe sitting here today is that I support the higher moral standard we have decided to hold ourselves to.
Can you please answer the question?
Senator, I think I've answered the question.
No, you've not. Do you believe the previous techniques, now armed with hindsight, do you believe they were immoral? Yes or no?
Senator, I believe that we should hold ourselves to the moral standard outlined in the Army Field Manual.
Now, I thought Haspel handled herself very well during this tough question, and it's not a question, Professor Yoo, that you can answer with yes or no.
Well, first, I think, unfortunately, Senator Harris, my home state senator, is engaging the kind of Monday morning quarterbacking, which is extremely damaging to our ability to wage the war on terror. I wonder what Senator Harris herself, who probably was, I don't even know she was in elected office. Maybe she was a city attorney of San Francisco. What she would have done in Haspel's position back in the weeks after 2001. It's easy to sit back here now, but I think it's a very dangerous idea for our elected members in the Senate to try to punish or sanction people years after they made these difficult decisions. Plus, I would mention the other thing that I don't think Ms. Haspel mentioned was whether the track record, whether it worked, whether the government's reorientation towards a military and intelligence posture, an aggressive posture against terrorism, actually helped stop future 9/11 attacks. I think they did. I think the track record, if you look at what happened in the country between 2001 and the end of the Bush administration, shows that we did a successful job in tearing down the al-Qaeda infrastructure, capturing or killing its top leaders, and making sure there was never another successful attack like 9/11 on American soil.
Professor, are there exact data, and I know that there are, as proof of some of the assertions that sometimes these more intense measures just really are necessary for the purpose of prevention of other tragedies?
Well, it's always hard to say this one particular thing stopped this one attack. But if you look at the history that's set out in the 9/11 Commission report itself, if you look at the data they cite, almost 75 to 80% of it comes from the interrogations of these top al-Qaeda leaders. Also look at the track record, not only did we see this sort of broader level stopping of attacks and Al-Qaeda put back into retreat. But right after the CIA, I think, started using these methods, they started capturing several of the top Al-Qaeda leaders and really prevented their ability to move men and money around the world and carry out attacks. I think there's several attacks that were stopped, including potential ones against Los Angeles, against the Brooklyn Bridge, that came out as a result of the information that was yielded from this intelligence. Now, critics will always say, oh, well, you don't know if the attacks ever really would have succeeded. But that's the whole point of intelligence. The whole point is to prevent them from happening, so we never have to figure out whether they would have succeeded.
And you can't afford that the 1% thing that Dick Cheney always talked about. You can't afford to take the risk.
Well, I do want to ask you, Professor, since you wrote these memos authorizing the use of these enhanced interrogation techniques, the president, as you know, is in favor of these techniques. Do you think that they should come back? In other words, are you in favor of them?
Well, I think the most important thing is whether we use them or not, that we not tell the enemy what we're going to do ahead of time. So I think it would be.
But do they work?
Fine. Well, I think, as I said, I think that they have worked. They did work at the time, and they did yield almost all of the intelligence that we had on Al-Qaeda in the years after 9/11, which I think you can see from the record the United States used to devastating effect. I personally do not think that if we had followed standard FBI interrogation methods, read people like Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and the other plotters in 9/11, their Miranda rights, gave them a lawyer, and brought them back to the United States for a civilian trial, which is what critics, and I assume Senator Harris would like to do. I don't think that we would have successfully rolled back Al-Qaeda, destroyed most of his top leadership, and stopped any attacks. Do you really think that for the next 7 years after the 9/11 attacks, there would not be another successful attack in the United States? Look what happened after 2008. President Obama stopped interrogation methods. President Obama tried to close down Guantanamo Bay, and we have been suffering a series of attacks on U.S. soil to the point where we're not even surprised by them anymore.
Yeah, I think, Gina Haspel deserves some credit, as does the CIA, for taking a look at something that did work to a certain extent, and now they're trying to employ other tactics that they may feel like that work better. But you've got to give those people who are out there in the field the leeway they need to do their jobs.
Yeah, and Nancy Pelosi apparently knew about it, and nobody's attacking her for it. So,
yeah. John Yoo, thank you so much for your time today.
Newsmax TV. Watch us on Dish, DirecTV, AT&T Uverse, Verizon Fios, or download our free app. Don't have Newsmax TV? Call your local cable provider and request Newsmax today.